Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It is our weekend program, Saturday Sports Special. As indicated on our program, we discuss the latest developments shaping sport, both in the Caribbean, that's the region, and the world. We'll be looking at a number of issues today. Um, oh, Caribbean cricket obviously will be on it, right? We'll look at athlete migration, all that will be affecting Caribbean athletes. We'll try to look at the role of government in the development of sports and also the progress of women in sport, right? A lot of things we have to discuss today. First off, let me introduce, first off the bat, um, my friend and colleague in St. Lucia, Ryan O'Brien. Are you there?
Yes, Mike, good afternoon to you and to all your listeners and viewers.
Right, Ryan. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. And Ryan is live with us on the line. Thank you very much, Ryan. We want to discuss some issues regarding cricket. By the way, folks, as I indicated, lots to discuss. Rudian is already standing by in Toronto, and when he comes on, we'll be looking at some other issues regarding athlete migration, you know, a lot of things about athletics. We have a full program for you. But the importance of territorial cricket boards in nurturing grassroots talent and successes and setbacks of West Indies cricket, the West Indies cricket team recently, the impact of youth cricket academies and tournaments in the Caribbean, and the role of regional tournaments in preparing players for the global stage. But first off, Ryan, I want to ask you, how effective are the territorial boards in managing and promoting cricket in the region?
Well, if I could use St. Lucia's situation as a starting point, I think in the last few years there's been a realization that they need to go down to the grassroots level. There was some sort of talk and development in that area, but I think it's now taking root, especially St. Lucia, one of the countries now with a high performance center that has resulted in a number of players coming through and being able to get on to the international circuit at this point, but certainly within the sub-region at all different levels. I think the most recent would be youngsters like John Gaston, who had a particularly reasonable good year for the Winwood senior team when he didn't make his debut. And the line of production seems to be looking pretty good. We've had a number of players, at least Akimo East was probably taken some time to graduate from the under 19 level, but still has been around one who has had consideration, the attention of the regional selectors, and now with his duties with the academy and recently in the recent representation against the president Sri Lankan squad and his own performances at that level. So he definitely is one of the shining lights that is coming through at that young age. So yes, the High Performance Center is doing that. We also knew that they've got some names that has been around for a couple of years. Chandler and Descartes looking to break out in the scene, and we have some youngsters that are really coming through at the under 15 level. But what has happened under 15, under 19, and then you find that there's a gap there. Get lost somewhere along the line. So I don't know how we're going to bridge that gap to ensure that they, at least spring on from there and at least get themselves on the regional and international scene.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting, and that's um, specifically for St. Lucia. And I know you have been following a lot of the cricket in the islands, particularly the Windward Islands. But St. Lucia has produced a number of regional first-class players, including the current coach of West Indies. We talk about, Darren Sammy. But what are some promising initiatives for youth cricket development in the sub-region?
I think most islands would have had some sort of grassroots academies coming through. Also remember Arts and Crafton. He's attached to the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, and he's done a lot of grassroots programs, particularly north of the island. But the ministry has a program that ensures that they identify players from that being exposed to more coaching. We have more coaches and more coaching programs set up by the National Association as well. So you find they're reaching much further and the interest is still being kept. So I would say there's a lot more interest coming through the lines. St. Lucia did particularly well at the under 19. Unfortunately, were not able to give the sort of performance that was expected of them in the last tournament played in Grenada a couple of months ago. But definitely, the youngsters in these islands coming through what I'm saying to you, Mike, I think is the progress as they leave that age and how do they transcend and graduate into the senior team that has been the main concern. So the robust activities at the bottom, yes, there are schools programs, there are under 19, there's academies, but how do that talent then go on? I think that's the main issue in terms of the level of competition that we will meet along the way, especially when we look at the situation, we just went the test scenario and the recent 3-match series against the Australians. And we had situations where we had a number of our batsmen, especially in the top order, who might have just graduated onto the West Indies test side. And they had almost perfect credential in terms of their performances and runs scored in the region. But when they get to the higher level, they cannot seem to make that impact because they don't have sufficient competition at that level to easily fit in to face international competition. And I think that is one way that the West Indies cricket team will have to go. You know, over the last 3 years, there's been that attempt to give the players at these different levels more tours overseas and similar competitions of other international cricket playing nations, the women as well. But we need to have more than this. We need to get our players up to a level that will make us more competitive on the international stage.
Oh, that's interesting. And while you're at that, how do you see the recent performances by the West Indies team will influence cricket's popularity? In any way, do you think it will affect it or anything like that? So the popularity.
I don't think it will. Actually, I mean, it was a very hurtful day when the West Indies went down with that sort of performance in their second ever club in Italy, which is around 204. No one in their wildest imagination could have imagined that the West Indies squad could have been dismissed for a score as low as 27. I think it was very hurtful. A lot of people are still reeling from it, but we just cannot keep happening on that. We have to continue. I do not think that all the efforts that have been made to the West Indies Cricket Board, they have made the effort to get the sort of structure that is needed. But that was really shocking. We can't just let it be a disaster and continue with it. We got to take steps to ensure that it doesn't happen again, the humiliation. But I don't think it will affect the psyche and the interest of youngsters who have already been so interested and or we could say cricket crazy within the islands. I don't think cricket is a sport that will become very unattractive despite that last situation during the week there with the West Indies squad. So I think these are the youngsters who probably look at it as a way of coming now, seeing that there's the possibility for them to step up and try to force their way into the West Indies squad, look for the opportunities within their various regions, their national teams, and see this as an opportunity to try to strengthen their own cause and to do much better. But I don't think that performance and what has happened over the last few years to the West Indies in terms of tests will influence players to give up, because there's a lot of cricket that's going on in St. Lucia, mainly the shorter versions, the 50 over. We even have an annual T10 competition that's being played, and the players come out, they're very competitive, and what is very heartening, there's lots of support for the various teams during the competitions. Most of them play on the lights, and yes, the interest is still there. I don't think that it will affect the interest that much, but certainly it shows up a lot of deficiencies in regional cricket.
Okay, and you know, I asked you that. I know you have to run off shortly, Ryan. But do you think that our youngsters, especially in the region, should be playing the longer, should be more involved in the longer format of the game than just the short format, the T20, the T10?
Yes, most definitely, because to me that's the foundation of it all. I mean, these shorter formats just most recently come in. Right now, there's got T10 competition playing in different Windward's territories. The Dream 11, they've played a very big part in ensuring that they come with the sponsorship for this and puts considerable money in it. And definitely governments, like the government and St. Lucia getting involved as well in different competitions to help boost it at that point. But most of the rudiments, even playing the shorter versions, most of the basic rudiments need to be established by playing the longer version of cricket. The whole aspect of game awareness, basic techniques, proper bowling, line and length, it's very, very fundamental that the rudiments of the game are mastered even before. Because if you don't have a proper defensive technique, you still won't be able to go and blast it all over the place. So you still need to be able to defend your wicket. You still need to be able to settle in. Even in the shorter versions, you don't have the luxury of time. But again, the general aspect of developing the overall know-how to deal with situations, to be able to execute on your skills, the basic need to be done, and the longer version of the game gives you that sort of foundation to learn all these aspects of the game so you can go on and master and make them fit into the different formats that are now coming in and the different versions that we find coming in into the sport at international level.
Just before you run off, just two things I want to, for you to comment on. One, Juju's performance in London today. I know that's your home girl. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, certainly Juju appears to be really inspiring the youngsters, not just in St. Lucia, but the women in the Caribbean as well, female sprinters.
Yes, and she's definitely revered in St. Lucia, and her development, her maturity is really coming to show. She's right now a brand ambassador for St. Lucia, and she carries herself very well. And I think St. Lucians really appreciate that about her. She's gone a very long way in ensuring that she remains focused. She does what she has to do, and I did get a glimpse of her race today, and wow, she was really impressive in that final 80 meters, and really has shown that the strength is definitely there. And to your question specifically in terms of inspiring the younger athletes, I think just after a previous event, she was in an interview, or maybe I think maybe just before this event in London, she was also asked about her impact on track and field in St. Lucia and what is it like, and with the possibility of St. Lucia having a relay team. And then she came up with the sort of response that I'm giving you now. Over the last couple of years, we've now seen the development of Naomi London, who has followed her into Texas, and young J.D. Manuel, who did the sprint double at Carifta this year. So already St. Lucians are speaking about these three athletes, hopefully might be able to get St. Lucia to that level where we can compete on the international stage. These are 4x100 meter women's team. They're just probably looking for one or two more athletes to back up that trio to see how well St. Lucia can do. So it's very inspiring that at least St. Lucia can have that prominence in track and field, at least among the women. And yes, she certainly inspired a lot of the young athletes. You find the local athletic association, the St. Lucia Olympic Committee, and different interest groups and persons who are putting money into sports sponsorship are really investing in track and field. I must say there's been lots of improvement. There are many more meets, local meets. There are a lot of coaching programs going down at the grassroots level here in St. Lucia, and government trying to do as much as they can to provide the incentives going forward. And hopefully we should have the George Odlum Stadium back into commission, because we have known that's maybe close to 14 years now that the stadium has been out of commission. It has been used at the hospital with the advent of the fire that destroyed the St. Jude Hospital. So the the stadium is actually being used as a hospital. The local association of athletics, they've been using the track primarily to conduct some of their meets at time, also in mini stadium. But I think with the return of the stadium, hopefully full time as a stadium, with the prospect of the St. Jude Hospital being completed at the previous location where it was burnt, track and field and sport enthusiasts really looking forward to the re-implementation and refurbishment of the George Odlum Stadium, which will further boost track and field in St. Lucia.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, and not just St. Lucia, but it's good for regional athletics as well. Finally, before you run off, we go way back from Radio Antilles, Kana, CMC. What does the Sports Max and Loop News mean for Caribbean sports media, Ryan?
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I know we are old friend lands with the Caribbean. I've not really been in the very aggressive loop like you guys have been in lots of years. But I would still follow all the activities, and Sportsmax very popular, not just in the Caribbean, but I'm sure in North America and other parts of the world we're able to pick up. I'm actually watching on Sportsmax cricket right now. It's the International Masters tournament. I think West Indies just going down to South Africa in the first game a while ago. But it is quite, a platform that kept the region all around in contact and having an idea what's going on sports-wise in the region, and lots of analysis. They were able to bring you a lot of live events and good analysis and a commentary. And definitely they will be missed. And I'm sure that maybe sometime soon we can get a similar entity to ensure that this sort of platform for regional sports enthusiasts and sportsmen and women would be able to know that there's a network that specifically designed to give that level of sporting coverage and to bring a number of events to the region. I don't can't speak of all other nations. There's a station locally that is dedicated solely to covering sports on Winners TV, but a lot of their work is done through rights and stuff like that. So they carry it, but nothing in the more of Sportsmax and the sort of influence and the sort of personalities they had who were able to bring you the events, the coverage, different channels, and expert analysis, not just by those in studio, but those from around the region.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. All the best. I really appreciate your time with us and your insights, as I will say, into what's happening in terms of, particularly as it relates to cricket, from a St. Lucia perspective. Right? Thank you very much, Ryan.
Yes, Mike. You're welcome.
Okay, then. Thank you. So that's Ryan O'Brien from St. Lucia speaking to us. Certainly giving us his insights into what's happening in terms of cricket and in terms of the development, particularly at the youth level. As I indicated, we certainly will have a full program on today. I really understand it by. We also have the chair of the local organizing committee for the OECS netball tournament to be staged in Grenada in a matter of a week or so, very shortly, I should say. And we hoping to get her on to give us a little insight. And then we still have our friend from Jamaica, who will, that's Richard McLarty, who will give us, some insight as well, as it relates to, as it relates to some track and field. So I think I've made the connection with our good friend. This is Glenys Roberts, is no stranger to our program. She is on the phone with us today. And let me say good afternoon to you, Sister Glenys Roberts.
Good afternoon, Bascom. Yeah. How are you? Long time.
I know. It's a very long time. Myself and Rudem still fighting up even after all these years. Yeah. But certainly,
keep going.
yes. But on a serious note, Glennis, still you still fighting up with I would say with netball, right? And you're chairing a
the love
very
of my life.
right, and you're chairing a very important committee. That's the for the OECS. What's the correct name? The OECS Netball Championship.
The correct name now is the 5th ECCB International Series.
Oh, it's international.
Among the OECS countries.
Right.
Yeah.
Simply because of what? Is it Trinidad or Barbados or whoever is participating?
No.
Okay.
No, simply because ECCB now is the sole sponsor.
Okay, right. They're the sole sponsor.
Remember
right.
when it started, it was with the OECS Sports Desk.
Right, in St. Lucia.
OECS no longer is connected to the championship.
Right. It's solely sponsored and coordinated by the ECCB, that's the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
Right. And CNA, the Caribbean Netball Association, is the one charged to ensure that the tournament runs according to international rules.
Right. And while you were president, even as a former president, you have been following in terms of participating, whether as official, broadcaster, commentator, whatever. So you're very experienced in terms of the OECS Netball Championship. Tell me, in terms of organizing this year's tournament, particularly in Grenada, where we are at in terms of the preparations.
Okay, we are at a very good spot, a comfortable spot, I would say. First of all, for us to be able to host the championship, we would have had to have the blessings from the cabinet, the government of Grenada. This we have had in terms of improvement of the infrastructure, meaning the canteen courts, in terms of doing all the remedial work and having a new surface so that it's not as slippery. Because we play outdoors and we also that problem, but it's the time of year when we are in the peak of the rainy season. Although over the years, again, an advocate for climate change and all of that, we can see different weather patterns. So I'm praying, not good, by August 22nd, we will have warm weather. But in terms of that, we had that sponsorship from the government. And the government is not only sponsoring in terms of that infrastructure, they're also doing equipment, scoreboards, ice baths, as well as to help with transportation and all other things that is tough for an association to handle. In addition to ECCB and many other sponsors who are coming on board with different, they say one cocoa full the basket.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
You're right. How many countries are participating in this year's tournament?
Okay, so we have 10 countries. You would not believe, but only 2 days ago, Guyana has come back into the picture. So we have the 7 OECS, except St. Kitts, and I will name them because we are international, and I know everybody would love to hear the country's name. So we have Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, Barbados, Cayman Island, Dominica, and I'm just going in alphabetical order. Montserrat, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Guyana, and host Grenada. So it's 10 of us competing. What I would say though, the championship is only among the OECS.
Okay, so Barbados and Guyana and others would not be getting
and
points.
Cayman,
And
yes,
Cayman,
because it's an international series, they are a part of it.
Right, but they will not get points in terms of the championship itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that explains things. What's about in terms of the local team, in terms of its preparation?
The local team has been training. I think, according to the president, who is Libert Alexander, he said that by next week the team will be named.
Right.
I think they're in high spirits. We have a mixture of veterans and younger ones, and the aim is for us to keep the championship home this year, not give it up to take the high seats. Mm-hmm. But I want to say, in any competition, you need to expect to win or lose. Your intention may be to win, but when you lose, you take it with grace. And likewise, I think as we try to develop and continue to develop this sport, we have to have an open mind. I want to encourage posts. It will be live stream as well, and that's being done and sponsored by the ECCB. So the ECCB is sponsoring accommodation as well. They are also sponsoring travel for the teams coming in to Grenada. Mm-hmm. And I must say that from when I was president, when it was just the OECS under 23 tournament, under our new governor and Grenadian governor, and I'm taking kudos because you always have to be happy when your people doing well.
Yes.
That he is walking with us with the vision that with this women's sport we can do so much to help our young ladies and our women to develop. So they have increased it, quite a bit, I want to say. And we're very appreciative of that, for the ECCB for believing in Caribbean netball and OECS netball. And as you know, Bascom, we do not have an OECS netball association, hence the reason why the Caribbean Netball Association was invited to be a part and to partner with us, in this venture.
Right, that's good. Well, he's talking about Timothy Antoine, the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
The Grenadian governor.
Yeah, that's my former schoolmate, certainly. And
very well.
Will he? Yes. Will he be in Grenada for the tournament? Because I know the last
time I sent him a message.
Please do.
Because my vice chair of this committee is Vida Bruno Victor.
Okay, right.
So at our last meeting with the bank and CNA, while we were discussing and finalizing, things for the tournament, we sent him a nice message to say that we expect him in Grenada. So if he will be on holidays, the holidays have to be down south.
Down south, yes.
Down home. Right. So hopefully he is here. And if I remember rightly, this journey of transforming this tournament actually started in a VIP in Antigua years ago. So I'm so happy that it is now where it's at, and encouraging all who are sporting enthusiasts. I don't want to warn too, Basco. A lot of times we expect so much, we criticize so much. I want to say to people, let's forget what happened in the past. If we want to make a change in this world, we have to go according to what the good book says. Turn the other cheek, keep moving, and we will see the betterment of mankind.
Yeah.
Change starts within. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we don't understand that. And I think with all the players clicking, meaning we have security, which is headed by Sylvan McIntyre. We have liaison, which is by Jenny Cato. We have ceremonies and so headed by Kemoy, Kenisha, Miss Roberts. And we have quite a number of people working on board to do. We have Miss Simpson. Miss Simpson is in charge of the scores, and so Kamasha Smith is the technical director. So Miss Simpson already have her girls training and doing the thing. They actually started training because both national male and women played 2 games last week, so they started their process. Mm-hmm. And we have a stats team as well. Headed by Roland and Twine and Russell John, Tira and Twine. So we have quite a bit of people working along. We have protocol, all the people, all of the players that usually their logistics is Mr. Brave Boy and Mr. Lane. And we have, Mr. Peters, who is the coordinator of sports, the PS, Kim Frederick. Let me tell you, it's all hands on deck to execute this project.
Right.
And we will certainly more than likely get it right.
Well, yeah, that's good. That's good to know. Once again, finally, just a wrap in terms of the dates for the tournament.
Okay. The date is August 23rd. That the actual playing days, but the teams come in on the 22nd when we start with a candlelighting ceremony, and the following day, which is the Saturday, we have the opening, which is it should start around 3 p.m. Now, what I also want to say that Bascom before I leave, it starts from the 23rd to the 31st of August. 3 teams travel out on the 1st of September. What I also want to say is that the price is $75 season and $10 every day. The actual matches will start after the opening day at 4 p.m. on afternoons and the last game at 8 o'clock. We also have children free. So parents don't be bother and if I have to go every night is $100. No. It's affordable. Come down to Tantine. We want all on sundry. We're also trying to create a craft village so that our players coming in will be able to shop, to get local stuff, and we put that on the cricket side of Tantine, not Old Trafford, the same side of the road. Right. We're also trying to put, enough so that we can have a really nice atmosphere nightly, and we want to thank all the players, Flo, and a lot of people. Let me not start calling names more than saying the main sponsors and the government of Grenada, as I would say, for all that they would have done, because this plan started in October last year, and we are now here, just 4 weeks away to having a tournament to take care of all the countries in the OECF except St. Kitts, Barbados, Cayman, and Ghana.
Yeah. Finally, before you go, and on behalf of Rudian, when you meet as the local organizing chair of the local organizing committee, when you meet the government representatives sitting at the opening ceremony, please convey a message from us that along with basketball and other sporting disciplines, that we need an indoor facility. So the next time Grenada is hosting such a tournament, it should be in an indoor facility.
Indoor.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I had to remind, and as we say, government is continuous, but sometimes we have that, unfortunate that the previous government would have done them sitting on a desk or on a shelf, because truth be told, when Senator Cox was Minister of Sports, he had a committee with myself again chairing, Kathy and Williams, Junior Brave Boy, but Dr. Noel, and so looking at an indoor facility. We had an architect who had just come back from Morocco. He actually teaches in PVC, named Corey. Corey did possible sites that we can do this indoor facility, Tantine being one. So all of that is there. So it's just a matter of when we get an investor now to say, no, we don't want a hotel, no, we want an indoor facility, which will take care of, as you say, tennis, because my love, the love of one of the sports I love a lot too is tennis. And I believe lawn tennis can do so much for our children, and we should have the ability, because Selma is still teaching. So I'm saying all of that to say that facility will help everyone, not only netball, basketball, tennis, table, lawn, whatever.
Right.
So I will still whisper.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dennis.
Oh, okay. And is Rudy?
Yes, Rudy is
Rudy, hello, in Canada.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and I'm listening. I am so happy and proud to see what you're doing for netball in the region. So continue.
Continuing to be. When we had our launch the other day, Vida actually said to the young journalists, follow sports. We don't want to hear what happened in America. Go to local sports here. She admonished them to please, like the Bascom and Ray Roberts, and so who always, have the look Nothing. But we really have to go back to roots and basics, I would say.
Yeah.
But it all starts with a single step.
All right. Thank you very much, Gladys. All the best.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Okay then. Thank you
Later.
very much. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye
Okay
bye.
then. Bye. So that's Glennis Roberts on the phone with us. And by the way, Rudian is standing by because Rudian will be taking the next segment. He has his guest standing by as well. Uh, he will have as much time as possible on the program to talk to his guest who is standing by. So I will just take my final couple minutes and then hand it over to Rudian. Rudian and Richard will take it all through. We'll be discussing a very important topic, and I'm certain that you will have a lot of interest in that one as well. As we continue, certainly, it has been sort of what we'll call a roller coaster to an extent over a period of time in terms of particularly the media. Let me tell you something. Back in the 1990s, right, there was a radio station in Grenada called YSFM Radio. I'm sure a lot of people would have heard about YSFM Radio. Now, the YSFM Radio sort of revolutionized FM radio in Grenada. And when I say that, it's not just music, it's not just news, sports and programming, in particular. It probably was the first FM station in Grenada that had island-wide coverage. The man behind that was no other than Hamlet Mark. And Hamlet is joining us about now. Hamlet, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Michael, and afternoon to all the listeners.
Right. And I say that to say, Hamlet, as a certainly as an intro, because we have spoken right to Paul Roberts before, Ray Roberts, quite a few folks who have been involved with the media. And I think it's probably the first time we have in Hamlet now to really talk about sports broadcasting, sports journalism, and to an extent, the coverage of sports, because I use the YSFM era because back then, Hamlet, there was something called total coverage, particularly on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And in those days, the mecca of cricket in Grenada was St. Andrews. And somehow there was a magic that you used to do, and probably you can share it with our listeners in terms of how the heck Hamlet was able to bring you coverage. And we're talking about those days, we didn't have mobile phones, particularly we had the landlines, but you were able to bring coverage from game to game, field to field, all over St. Andrews. Hamlet, how was that possible?
Well, we normally had a feature game, right? And we sometimes use somebody's phone from nearby who has a landline close to the ground. Actually, a couple of times we actually put in a line, which what was Kiba and what I said at the time. Mm-hmm. And then in other places, we had guys reporting for sessions. And some people will leave the park to go to a house a couple of blocks down, or a couple of neighbors down, to give an update. We will we'll kind of set it up that you're going to come in about 2:30 to the update, and you're going to come in at 3 o'clock and so on. So they will leave the park. In those days, we didn't have cell phones. And go to somebody's house and make a call and give the report. And then at 6 o'clock, of course, by that time, everybody gone back to their base and so on. We had a total roundup of all the matches between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Yeah, with all the close-up play schools and so on.
Close-up play, yeah.
And sometimes we'll limit us on the players, and we'll call them on the phone and do an interview after the game and so
on. But Hamlet, how challenging do you say it was for you and YSFM at that time to do such, coordinating with all the folks from the various grounds, getting them in queue, and all these sort of things. Because we talking in those days, Hamlet, it wasn't as it is now, in terms of where you have everything computerized.
Yeah, and well, we cannot piggyback on a lot of people are enthusiastic about it. I mean, there are a lot of volunteers.
Right.
Claudius George and Peter Blair and those guys. And I mean, even Junior George, he'll tell you the story. Junior was 13 years or 14 years. He was from Union. I said, let me tell you something. I went to him and said, you could do that cricketing, Right? I wanted to root from Union from the cricket. And I kind of just tell him exactly what I put and so on. I say, I see you around and you're brave. And that's why he started running cricket from Union. So we just kind of, selected people and so on. And even when we did the coverage of the main match, I mean, I know a couple of times Stevenson Wam came up and a couple of other people and so on. And we used to get sponsorship from the local community shops. And most of them didn't want any advertisement, they just said, we love what you're all doing. Here is $300 or $400 for the weekend. And I would say, well, what are you doing? What do you want us to see? No, man, they don't mention us. That just to keep the thing going. Mm. We had that kind of level of thing from the community. They go to shops and stores and so on. You just tell us, we're sponsoring, but you don't call up money. We don't run an ad for us. They just was so appreciative of the idea that we are providing coverage and giving exposure to local sports.
But Hamlet, and do you see something like that still relevant today?
Well, I mean, the thing is, we have more access. I mean, people have more access with the internet and with mobile phones and so on. And so theoretically, it's easier and more far-reaching. I mean, I think there's an issue of cost. I don't think you have the level of volunteerism you have back then. I mean, I think the whole dynamic of society has changed. A lot of people will ask you, how much you paying? Right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's a cost factor that makes it difficult. And there's also, in some instances, a lack of will, really. Because I mean, when we jumped up the idea, was a dream, was a will to do it, right? And we are determined we're going to do it, and then we having established we must do this. And then figure out, well, how do we pull it up? Because we have to do it, right? And so we use creative ways, given the technology we had, given the access we had, given the people we had, we were just tap into to do that, right? So it does. I mean, in a strange way, it was not just a programming effort or a radio effort. It was or a media effort. It's actually like a community effort. I mean, I think the community and the teams and so on, they embrace the concept and the idea, and a lot of ordinary people try to do what they could have to facilitate and make sure we carry it out. I mean, I know when we went to this with the commentators, the community fed us. The commentators fed the technical team and so on. We wouldn't have to provide any refreshment or any food or so on. That was the task of the community. They just volunteered to do that. But I mean, I think it's a whole social dynamic. I mean, that was what, 30, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, out of mercy. 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I just got frightened for a while.
Because you almost thought you were 80. Yeah. But in terms, generally, Hamlet, in terms of coverage of sports, and we can look at Grenada, and you have been going through the region, outside of the sports marks and others and things like that. So what's your sense, what's your view about coverage of sports in Grenada and the Caribbean?
It's a crazy thing that with more access, technically, we have less coverage. I mean, less organized coverage of sports. And I mean, there are other reasons for that. I mean, some people are think are a problem. I mean, a lot of people just don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and I don't agree. Um, no, there are some quality issues, some talent issues. Is we lack other talent in doing the things we want to do, and I also think too, right? And I've said that too. For example, I've said that to the Grenada Football Association when Cheney was president, and I've been saying that to the netball. Now that I try to help them with the Caribbean thing. I think the concept of how you actually package the thing to it is a problem. And I keep saying to those guys, any major sports tournament is built around names, right? You give me a couple of names. Let's package the tournament around 2, 3, 4 supposed stars and so on. Because for the casual follower, right? I mean, 100 playing Canada and so on, yeah, people will follow that. But if I bring to know that there is a Michael Bascom, who's the next big thing in soccer. So I'm trying to follow that. I'm trying to follow trying to tell what Michael did today. Oh, he flopped. Even if he flopped, or you know what I'm saying? I think also we're not packaging those tournaments and build them around games.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah.
So and so I think the thing is not packaged right. It's not so it's not promoted right to engage a semi-casual audience and to get them to buy into that. That's part of the problem too.
Part of the problem.
The other thing is, it's a crazy thing, right? Like in Grenada, you have maybe 9 last long, 18, 19, 20 stations, maybe one for every street corner. Can't find sports coverage. 3 stations, you have a lot of sports coverage, right? And I also think too that the stations are not developing a niche market, because you turn on one Saturday night, turn every station, and everybody playing drop music. I mean, every station they try, it's a drop song. I mean, you don't have a sports station, you have a talk station, you have a rock station, you have it's a couple of gospel stations. But the point I'm making, we have more, and then we have less. You see what I'm saying? Right? There are more stations, and there's less. Not just coverage of news. There's less. There's not a diversified approach to the programming, in the sense that everybody and everything sounds the same, and is now that's Carnival coming, is drop morning, noon, and night.
Hello. Before you leave, I must ask you that. I must tease you that finally. I know for the past few days, in terms of sports in the Caribbean, particularly cricket, it has been on the performance of the West Indies. You have been following cricket, you have been following West Indies from since probably a little boy. I mean, when I knew you, Hamlet, you still had your transistor radio, listening to cricket, wherever cricket is being played, and not just West Indies cricket, whether it's Windwards, whatever it is. Are you surprised? If not, are you hopeful? And I know from tomorrow we see the start of the shorter version, the T20 in Jamaica. What are your views on that?
No, not surprised. We're in a state of eternal disappointment. It's almost like eternal damnation. But not surprised. And I don't know. I don't know the solutions will come overnight or easy. I mean, I have this concept here. I don't know if I should publicly, which we have kind of pull some. Each island have to take their own responsibility to help build the sport back to a level, and then the collective will mean a strong Western is. I mean, I've said to a couple of people in the last admission and in this one, why don't we have a kind of Imani style center of creative excellence, right? Where somebody like a lot will finance it. Well, you take the best 14-year-old to 21-year-old cricketers in the country, right? In a 6-year program, in a center of excellence thing. Their thing is to become potentially the best cricketer they can become, right? So when they list like, if they are going to know work, their work is to train in a cricket academy. You're paying them, right? So they could be in there from 14 to 24, right? And you have a robust program. You're not only just training skills, mental issues, nutrition, development. There's a whole kind of thing. You to some of the best coaches in the world that you bring from time to time, and I have a robust program. And you know what I said to them? Because of the way globally, 10, 12 Grenadian players could be on the global 2020 circuit, you know? And that is a lot of promotion for Grenada. Right? So they didn't have to make West Indies team, right? But from that you'll get a couple of or more who will go to the West Indies team. But you could have a whole set of players, right? Who can play in the various leagues and so on. And that also is promotion for Grenada. They'll be earning money and bring it back home, but also their promotion for Grenada. Because when Andrew Fraser plays in Australia, they talk about the Spice Man, and if you wonder what's the Spice Island, what's Grenada, and so on. So you have all that inherent thing. And and then you have to have a whole structure that includes primary school cricket. I mean, when I went to primary school, you know, we had St. Andrew's tournament, you know. That meaning is to be St. Giles and Pig and Grenville Methodist and so on, right? And I remember, you know, the school takes the half day on the day of the match and about all the students come around, and the parents come around, and you had that tournament in those days. You don't even know all the gear. So you still batting one pad, just the front pad, because you don't enough gear and so on. But you saw that tournament, and it used to be, but you know that tournament, and then you went to secondary school and you have that tournament too, right? And I think that there's this robust school system. Now the other thing I was talking to somebody just about 2 hours ago about it. I mean, there are other distractions. Now in Munich, right? We saw 4 teams on trial, you know, doing trials for the tournament, you know. We had 4 sets of players, right? To be able to qualify to play for Munich Invaders. Now, I remember the thing was so competitive that after a couple of years, myself and William Thompson and so on broke away and from a team called Strugglers. because we couldn't get play, because you had so many people who want to play, we didn't get to play. Right? So sometimes for the whole season I get a game. So we decided going from our own team. Right? No, I understand that many of us can send 9 fellas playing and they couldn't, and then get everybody, they have 8 and they have 10. And this just the old prices are changing, I understand that. But this is kind of crazy. I mean, literally, I mean, you play, and there are other good players though. If the players back then had kind of access and opportunity that they already know, a lot of guys would have made a living from that cricket, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has some really, really good players in St. Andrews days that just were good players, and that was it. I mean, they were in those people talk about we know than Leeward and so on. even if you're very good, you didn't. I mean, I run into Joseph Cummins. First time I met him, I knew about him. I heard a lot of stories about him. He was here for the Australia West Indies game in Grenada. I'm told that in the 70s, they were one of the best batsmen in the West Indies.
Yeah, Joe Cummins, yeah.
But Joe Cummins, right? And in fact, you're sitting together with him and Peter Thomas, who's the father of the Prime Minister. Peter Thomas was the first lottery for the winners, of course, in this convention about Michael Finley and so on. I mean, I remember vividly as a little boy listening to him bowling on the radio, winners versus Pakistan in a two game in Dominica. Where he took 4 for a little bit. He claimed bull Zaya Abbas was the one who bowled in by the time Jared me and that. And we were talking about those times. Peter Thomas was a wonderful swing bowler. If he was playing cricket today, would have been playing for the West Indies. You know? And there is I don't think there are enough people playing cricket in the St. Andrews used to be big. St. Andrews have 4 divisions,
yeah? Yeah. 4.
You saw 40-something teams.
Yeah.
40-something teams playing in one parish. That's about 500 players, you know. That's 500 players, right? No, I think they have a short tournament. I think it's a 2020 tournament, whatever. And a few games. So there are less people playing cricket too.
Yeah.
Because I guess people might say there are more distractions and so on. I mean, when we were growing up and when school gave holidays, our work is supposed in the past there. You know? I mean, we used to just leave home early and come back in at dusk. I mean, I remember my mother used to say, where y'all working? Y'all knock off now? Because like a work week. You know, the man will go to pass the whole day playing cricket. All day playing cricket. I come back and so and next morning again, they run up for the give it to them and they run away. Right? And you used to have so many guys in the pasture. Sometimes you just couldn't get to play because you saw so many of them. But then we still have 4 teams in Munich. Right? Before the season, we used to play what we call the test series. Right? And you will pick the Invaders team from that test series. You have enough men that we just couldn't get a play because just so many of them. So we had to end up making another team.
Wow.
Which was good enough to be in first division, but it was in second because you can have 2 teams on the village in that. But we were good enough to be in the top division. And you still had other players who couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And you still have those meetings on Friday evening, right? Club used to have meetings, and you go and you have selectors, and you go to if your name call out for the team on the weekend.
Oh.
And then men will announce a 14-man squad for the weekend and so on, right? And so it's a Lord, even the boy, you know, even the second weekend. And you're trying to find guys to go to the game 11 to go and play.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a structural problem. But in terms of sports, right? I keep saying, I know we have all these sports in the system, right? The sport, a Grenadian is most likely to living from is cricket. If you are top cricketer in Grenada, you may be a top 500 cricketer in the world. Right? If you are top basketball in Grenada, you might be the top 100 tops in the world. Right? In terms of team sport, I think cricket is the only realistic avenue for people that are professional living from sports in Grenada. Right? And then of course you have the athletics, which is different because it's not a team sport. I mean, because some of the team sports, some selections are on judgment calls on somebody trying to select you. I mean, the good thing about that athletics, for example, is you're fast, if you're running 9.10 seconds or 9.10 seconds. Right? No one has to pick you in that sense. You have to be a good cricketer and didn't go anywhere because you're not selected, because I cannot impose. Some of it is based on somebody's analysis of your talent and how you fit in the context of the team. Right? Now, with somebody athletics, I mean, you could jump high, run fast,
or
throw
far, yeah.
And it's measured. So, I mean,
yeah.
But realistically, right? Cricket is the greatest avenue for professional life in sports in the Caribbean. Not basketball, not soccer. In soccer, have some opportunities, but cricket is the foremost sport for an opportunity for professional life. I mean, the top cricketers in the Caribbean now, among the top paid people in the Caribbean, period. Some better paid than executives and then prime ministers or whatever.
Yeah.
Among the top paid people in the Caribbean, period, full stop, without qualification.
That's true.
I mean, Chris Gill is a multi.
Yeah, come on.
Jamaican laws are multi-billionaire. 10 times over Jamaica,
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have those guys who are retired very early, Hamlet, right? When they play cricket, they can play for a couple of seasons and then retire and well off.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, as I say, my father was alive to see this thing, right? I remember, because I was a cricket freak, so we always played cricket. Of course, we still at school and so on. I remember when my father used to say, you have to study all books because there's no certificate in cricket. to mean for him, there was no life, there was no thing to earn from cricket. But that was a lot of years ago. I mean, I remember Banville was the best among us. So, he played for Grenada Youth, we know the youth. And he played for national team. I remember the year he was doing O level. My father didn't want him to go practice. He wanted to go second. He said, this is exam year. Right? I mean, that was the mindset. And even though he was, and we always gave the joke, right? He was fussing about training too much on cricket. When my brother made the Grenada on Haiti for the first time, the morning he got up, he was the first to dress. To go to play something. Look at your face. Look at this conversation. Let's go. He didn't go to the back. I realized to get that joke. Right? And my brother said he didn't know we were coming because they were in camp and so on, right? When he was batting, you there?
Yeah, I'm there, Hamlet.
So, when he was batting, he said he ordered, no, don't do that. He said he knew the bull wasn't there. He came the back. He fell one outside the off top and he had that long shot from the pavilion. He said that's when he knew the bull was in the park. Yeah. But I mean, also the mindset of the time.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, no. I mean, I was telling my sons, who are now 2 Americans for the liking, that there's a guy called Virat Kohli that has more following on social media than LeBron James, right? And I'll give him all the top Indian stars and show them they earn most of the major American sports stars.
Yeah.
And they don't, they didn't grasp that concept for a while. Because in American films, well, the NBA is it and NFL and so on. And then there's a whole world out there, right? I mean, cricket is after soccer the biggest sport in the world right now. Not basketball, not NFL. Never mind say a World Series among a few teams in the USA. I don't know how it becomes a World Series, but right? And there is this whole, and I tell my first son all the time, so not sorry we left Grenada because he had something like in Grenada. You remember the person a couple of patents on was like 3, 4, 5 years, right? But of course, he went to the US and then into US sports. I said, if you're in Grenada and you're a cricketer and you're fairly good, you'd have granted some decent living from it. You're a soccer player in Florida and it's fairly good, but just a bit in South Florida.
Thanks very much, Hamlet. I really appreciate quite a bit. And we'll have to probably do another sit down again and we'll look at some other sporting disciplines, some other aspects of sports, have a nice little conversation. I really want to appreciate your insights into not just the whole issue of sports broadcasting, sports journalism. As a matter of fact, sports journalism is one that we have to sit down and talk about because we have to go into all back then in terms of the writing aspect of it. We have seen a decline in that, but certainly that is something we'll want to talk about. Gordon Julian is saying that you're marking about Joe Cummins, and he's saying technically he's the best Grenadian batsman I've seen, followed by Shane Julian, the late Shane Julian. Yeah, you mentioned Joe Cummins. Yeah. Thank you, Hamlet.
I didn't see Joe, but I heard a lot about Joe, yeah. But I saw Shane Julian.
Shane Julian. Yeah, when he played for Windward Islands and then Combined Islands. I think he also played for Barbados as well for some period of time. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much, Hamlet. Appreciate it.
Right, thanks. Take care.
Yeah. Okay then. So that's Hamlet Mark live, and I think Hamlet is in Grenada, so I want to thank Hamlet for that. Let me see if I can get Yeah, thank you very much, Hamlet. Right. So let me put it over to Rudian. Thank you very much, Rudian. Thank you for waiting. And I'm handing over to Rudian, who will be taking our special guest, because let me explain to you about that, right? Because it's very important, because we have seen the increasing trend of Caribbean athletes switching allegiance to other countries, and the whole factors driving this trend: scholarships, professional opportunities, better facilities, and sort of the effects on the region's talent pool and national teams, and somehow measures to improve athlete retention and development regionally. And certainly he will be speaking with Mr. Richard McLarty. I hope I have the name correct, Rudian.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they will be taken, right, McLarty, and they'll be taken away with their very interesting discussion, because that's something we touched on sort of a few weeks ago, when Dr. Gregory Hunt was on with us, but we plan to come back and get some more insights into that, and I'm certain that Richard has some level of experience in terms of coaching, in terms of athletes and what have you, and that will be an athletics discussion among the athletes, the coaches, etc. So over to you, Rudian.
Mike Bascom, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Richard, it's good to see you again, man.
Oh, thanks, Rudy. And when you
certainly.
start, Michael, some of you, I don't know if Michael is still there, but I hope he is. Some of you, the topics that he covered earlier, netball, and he was talking to the guest a while ago in regards to sports and sports broadcasting. Michael, track and field is way down the totem pole in terms of sports broadcasting worldwide, right? The only two events in sports broadcasting that can compare with cricket and soccer, NFL, NBA, is the Olympics and the World Championship. Right? So just on an average for broadcasting of track and field event across the world at any given time, and this includes when we have the Olympics and the World Championships, it's about 3 billion, 4 billion people, right? Soccer pretty much is number one in the world. Always. Every year, it doesn't matter whether it's a World Cup year or a non-World Cup year, soccer broadcasted across the world attract the largest viewership and have the largest fan base. Any measure you want to use to measure soccer is always number one. As great as the NBA seem to be, as great as the NFL seem to be, the Americans always make it look like it is the best, but soccer in the world is number one all time, every time, anytime, right? So, and sports in the Caribbean in terms of broadcasting is very, very low. Right, and as you guessed before, cricket pretty much is number one in the Caribbean, hands down. Right, I know a lot of people very controversially talk about football in the Caribbean and soccer in the Caribbean comparing to cricket, but guess what? I tell Rudy the other day, I'm coming from a time when every single human being in the Caribbean had a transistor radio walking around with it. Every single being, it doesn't matter. Radio shop usually sell out a radio especially when there is a series coming to the Caribbean or the West Indies playing somewhere in the world, right? I mean, those days are pretty much gone, but that's where cricket is, and people still love a good game of cricket. West Indies turn up the thing, the stadiums and the parks are going to be full all the time, I mean, right now it's just a low time in terms of West Indies performance, and that's why you're not seeing the interest so much into it. But even today's young people, even at Sabina Park last week, there was a reasonable amount of crowd and there was a reasonable amount of attention, to the test series that was being played against Australia. I mean, we were disappointed at the end of the day, but there was a reasonable amount of crowd that came out. And if they had won that series, I can tell you, this weekend, these T20s would have been totally sold out. And I can assure you, though, there's going to be a lot of people at the game, over this weekend for sure, because people love a good game at T20. For some reason or the other, T20 is getting a big thing, right?
Isn't that, I think it's also a farewell to Andre Russell, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a farewell. So I think they will come out to show some support. Yeah, to that.
But how do you see cricket today, Richard, compared to our days? Our days, we love cricket. And I think that's what dying in the sport, because a lot of time we speak about, like we heard people talk about in the days, cricket used to do this, in the days we used to do this, in the days we used to do this. And that's not there today. So
cricket today is still number, as I said, cricket today is still number one in the Caribbean. Among young people at all ages, still the best sport for Caribbean people to watch. Right? It's the game that they will always go out and watch. They'll always tune to their TVs. It's just that cricket now fall into a dynamic situation where we have, YouTube, have all the social media things, have all the different platforms to watch the game on. So, and don't get it wrong, West Indies cricket and West Indies cricket broadcasting is always on top of a lot of, only India, Australia, maybe England is on top of where West Indies broadcasting of cricket. So in terms of the watching of West Indies cricket is still one of the big drawing cards around the world today. So whenever West Indies is playing, the broadcasting networks are doing very well with it, whether West Indies is playing good or bad. Because don't forget if West Indies is playing any team around the world, is always going to be a moneymaker for any broadcasting station. Always. Once West Indies is involved. And I guess that is coming from the history of what we had and all the time. And the excitement that West Indians play with all the time, right? They play with a level of flair and excitement, that kind of a thing. So it brings a life to the sport. The only thing is that when it comes to the Caribbean, we as a people, we like to see good cricket. It's just like in Jamaica. If you're at least not performing and winning gold medal, it's like we don't feel like we're winning anything at all, and we don't feel like we have an interest. We have to be winning gold medal, right? It's the same thing with the cricket with West Indian people. We have to be, you know, we have to be a Brian Lara, we have to be a Chris Gale all the time, and having that kind of player out on the pitch for us to be. But it has been watched by people around the world in millions. Of course, the Indians in particular love West Indies cricket. I can tell you, and they're the biggest nation that plays the game, that watch the game, that support the game. And when you have a nation with, you know, trillions of people as a nation that is their sport is number one, then you can't get better than that. So cricket worldwide is, I think, is number 2 in the world, you know, next to soccer, right? So you cannot imagine what that audience is like, and when Indians go West Indies cricket.
Yeah, and it's growing with the, you know, with the Indian involvement. You know, you're talking about India. You know, India is when you have places like India and Pakistan, which millions in terms of their population. Well, in terms of India is billions.
Trillion.
You know? Yeah. So I'm handing it over to Rudian, but I have one question for you. You'll do your introduction and then you'll go on, Richard. It has to do with the announcement this week of the stadium, Kingston Stadium. I saw designs and what have you. How you think, and whether you think that Jamaica will get for long last, I would say, a refurbished or a new national stadium. And I understand when it's done and whatever it is, the next time they'll have to do any maintenance or whatever will be in the year 2060. I don't know how true is that, but it's just good news in terms of the stadium. It seems to be a world-class stadium in terms of additional accommodation, all of that. But that is what I want to ask you in terms of kicking it off.
All right. So my name is Richard, of course, and my claim to fame is that in Jamaica, I was the only person to publish a sporting tabloid in Jamaica for 20 years, many years, right? My partnership with the Gleaner and that kind of thing goes a far way back and that kind of thing. So I've been covering sports in Jamaica in a big way for a long time and supporting sports in a long time. But to answer your question though, Michael, I am excited to see that finally, because this has been a discussion maybe for the last 20, 30 years, right? That the stadium needed to be refurbished and redone and build a new one. All that kind of conversation went on for many, many years. So to finally see, you know, the Minister of Sport, the Honorable Bobsy Grange, really, you know, going to be putting shovel into the ground to get this done, because we deserve a world-class facility, you know, for our sports, based on the fact that we have achieved so much with nothing and with very little over the years, you know, so for us to have a facility that is comfortable, you know, because the stadium that we had, you know, major part of it was never covered. So when rainfall, everybody get wet up. I guess that's not new with stadiums around the world, right? But in modern times, they have been covering nothing, and I'm excited to see this is going to come to fruition by 2026. They should start the whole construction and renovation and that kind of a thing. I like the fact that the entire thing, the facility, will be covered. But you know, and I'm excited about that. But guess what? You know, unlike when Cricket World Cup came to the Caribbean and we built that facility out in Trelawney, and it is there, you know, growing lots of weeds and bushes and all kind of things, and nothing happening out there. The concern that I have is that in the Caribbean, we tend to build facilities a lot of times, and it is underutilized, right? And go back to our conversation, Rudy, where is the money in track and field? The stadium is going to be built primarily because of our track and field exploits and, you know, facility to utilize it for these things. But now we're going to be having this world-class facility. Taking care of it is going to be something that is either the government is going to always foot the bill to ensure that it is taken care of, or it is going to be taken care of independently, right? At the moment, the National Stadium is run by Independent Park Limited. I think is a company that the government had set up to run it, you know, privately from where government is concerned. So they have that set up there to take care of the entire facility. Right now, how do the stadium make money? No, it's going to be a modern facility. No, like we used to have the grandstand, now we used to have the bleachers. The bleachers used to be an uncovered area. It's going to be covered now. So I'm thinking that fans who used to go to the bleachers and can play a small nominal fee now we have to be asked to pay a significant more. Right? So that's the concern that I have. I don't know how they plan on treating it. I know the grandstand is always pretty expensive all the time because all of the who's who go to the grandstand and who can afford it goes there. But it's always taking care of itself, right? But the bleachers is going to be something else. So let's see what that is. But I'm excited about it. I'm happy with the fact that we are going to be having a first-class facility, not just the track is a first-class thing. The media area is going to be upgraded to a first-class media area. The VIP areas are going to be, the conference room areas are going to be first world and that kind of a thing. So all these niceties are going to be put in place. I understand. And that's something that we have to be excited about. But, my thing is how it is going to be taken care of and where is the money going to come from to take care of it after that.
And even adding on that, Richard, here's another question in terms of the now can we see a diamond league in Jamaica? Well, most diamond leagues is run by whoever is hosting it, by the country. Is Jamaica ready, and Jamaica have the capability, the finances to host a diamond league? When you look at what a diamond league costs, it costs maybe almost 30 million US dollars for prize money and so forth. Do you see that a change could come in that direction?
Yeah, and the thing about it, Rudy, we have a test of that recently with an event that was being hosted the first time in Jamaica at that level, and we had, it failed in terms of crowd support. And having a first-class facility don't necessarily going to transition into having fans coming out to support things like a Diamond League, or a Grand Slam. It all have to do with the way how you build up the entire Jamaican fan base to come out and to come to these meets. Unlike Boys and Girls Championship, that is something else. That is just something that, it is run by schools. It is all about school. It is all about the championships of school. It's all about old students association. It is all embodied the things that, a group of people and a group of Jamaicans made into a phenomenal event. And when people traveling from around the world to come, and I'm not just talking people who are non-Jamaicans, I'm talking Jamaicans wherever they are in the world.
Yep.
They would leave wherever they are, they will leave their jobs, they will leave whatever is it that they're doing to come to this event, right? So that says a whole lot about what this event is all about. Now, if we can get Diamond League to be that, or if we can get Diamond League to speak to, that kind of involvement in terms of fans around the world, in terms of Jamaican living in Jamaica, then it's a whole different matter.
Because what also happened there, Richard, you also see like champs is and look at it, we always talk about in the Caribbean after champs the next biggest high school sport is in Grenada. Like literally after champs is the Grenada intercol games, and you kind of want this to kind of switch over to like the European style. The European people, they leave their job and they're there. It's the same concept we kind of want to see, like just how champs are. People flying in for champ, people making sure that to this point now, people really been saving for champs for next year. Because it's that big. Yeah.
What is so funny, Rudy, about Jamaican track and field fans is, what I've seen over the years, right? Our largest sport icon, our track and field largest sport icon, which is Usain Bolt, right? I can remember when Usain Bolt came to run at the trials. And it's just kind of funny, before I even met that point, it's just kind of funny. When Usain Bolt was a teen and running in the World Youth Championship that took place in Jamaica, the stadium was full to capacity. Whatever is it that they did in terms of marketing that event that time got the stadium, and this was a youth championship and the stadium was full. So it says to me that there is a market to get people out to come to the stadium, to get Jamaicans out to come to the stadium. The stadium was full, Rudy, for the days that it happened. Usain was just a young teenager at that time, right? And this was not even our first a senior event. This was a junior event. This was the World Junior Championship that was being held, but the stadium was full. So it says to me that marketing is what is important to get people out to come to this thing, right? It's not even about the talent that is going to be on show, because as I'm going back to this point, every single trials that Usain Bolt participated in Jamaica, the stadium was never ever full to capacity.
Yep.
It was not even half full. And we had a Safa Paul running at that time at the trials. We had Johan Blake running at that time at the trials.
Yep.
We had all our stars competing to make in the Jamaica team to compete at the World Championships or the Olympics. Right? All our big stars. And these are some of the biggest stars, including Usain Bolt, that was on show. But the stadium was never even half full. And I remember those times. So it says to me, when looking back at the World Juniors and looking at other events that have been kept at the stadium with big stars and big name coming in, is that there's a level of the fall short on marketing the event. Because I think Grand Slam, for me, Grand Slam never market the event properly at all. I think they didn't even come into Jamaica and market the event in any great way. It wasn't any big push with it at all. There wasn't any great build up to it in terms of what had happened. As a matter of fact, a lot of the other local meets does better than what the Grand Slam did in terms of crowd support. So like Racers Grand Prix and those meets did much better than the Grand Slam in terms of what they did, right? So there was, marketing is a big problem, I think, for them.
So, in your perspective, do you see track and field in the Caribbean is more fan based on a high school level than a professional level?
When you look at two sides to it, right? As I was just telling Michael a while ago, in terms of cricket, there is a fan base and there is a viewership base, right? So people sit at home and watch it, right? Because don't get me wrong, whenever these track and field meets are happening, all right, and let's say the local television station in Jamaica, they broadcast it, right? They will have large viewership for it. So people sit at home and they will watch it. They are pretty glued to watching it. But in terms of getting the fans to the seat in the stadium is something else. And that's why I say from a marketing standpoint, I think there's a breakdown from that in terms of getting people to leave their place and to come out to the event and support the stadium, right? So that's two things. But in the Caribbean, I think that is the same thing too. I think that was the same thing as well. And that's what's happening. So there is a problem, and there's a disconnect in terms of marketing, which is needed right throughout the Caribbean.
And then so now we go into the talk we talk about, and then in your point of view now, talking about where is the money in track and field.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the money is in track and field?
Yeah, I didn't get that last
on the
point.
top 10 because certainly track and field is not even the top 10 of sports in the world. So certainly, where do you see the money is in track and field?
I tell you this much, right? Because track and field attract 3 billion viewers. That's what the records show, right? So money has been made somewhere or the other. My thing is that I think the Olympic and the World Champion and World Athletics, they're making money, right? They certainly are making money. But what I don't see, and what my big question is, and where the whole question of where's the money in track and field is, how do you compensate athletes and what do you compensate the athletes with, right? And if it is that World Athletics and the Olympic movement is saying that they don't have this kind of a money, because there's an argument that the Olympic movement and World Athletics is saying is that whenever they have an event, there's just so much athletes that you have to pay. And I can understand, right? Because you have jumpers, you have throwers, you have, track athletes and different events. So there's just so much events that they have. Now, I am thinking, is that maybe it is that they need to raise the bar. Maybe it is that they need to get more, they need to have more events going on. So maybe Olympic need to be every 2 years. Maybe World Championship is always every 2 years. So maybe within every 2 years you have two big meets happening at all times. So there's no break period, because right now as it is, Olympics is 4 years. World Championships is every 2 years. So you have a 2 year period where athletes pretty much just doing any little thing. You know, nobody's seeing them, nobody know them. So their marketability is losing ground. Compared to basketball and other sports, cricket play every year, right? And those sports, they play every year. Football play every year. Track and field just have a break in time. So athletes have period that they're not competing. So the marketability of an athlete is very low, right? Very, very low. It's only just a phenom like Usain Bolt that would come out and, you know, and make the kind of a statement, because he's running world record after world record after world record. So, and when you look at it, right now, even Noah Lyles, he has to be marketing himself. He has to be being very creative. It's not that a sponsor out there going to see him and see the value, because what they're saying is that they don't see this great value in terms of these athletes. So how can we put a lot of money behind it? Usain Bolt brought a great value because he not only brought the track performance, right? He brought a level of personality to the whole thing that even off the track, it was something that people can put money behind. Because when you have an athlete going into a city, going into a store, and then the store is asking the man to actually leave the store, right? Because the crowd was just too much for them to handle, then that is something else. That's about stardom, right? No, in the US as a United States athlete doesn't have that kind of a thing at all. That's not happening for him nowhere. So marketers not literally, you know, is encouraged to put money into that product, right? So, and I guess what I've seen in recent times is that athletes have to be trying to do their own set of marketing with the social media content providing that they do. And every athlete out there now, I'm seeing they have a profile on social media, and they're using that to great effect these days to try and make some money for themselves. But the whole thing is about marketability of the athletes and marketability of the sports. And I think, you know, there lies a missing link between the whole thing and the money.
Yeah.
Right. But money is there. Money is out there. Sports is a big money making business, because I can tell you this much. You know, the gambling in terms of, you know, sports and for track and field is huge. You know, cricket is big, soccer is big, you know, NBA and all of that is big. The gambling is big. So money has been made somewhere. You know, if you look at soccer right now and you look at any billboard around any one of the stadium, you see one of those betting companies sponsoring this event. So you must know that they're making huge money out of it. When you look at NBA and you look at NFL, you're seeing the same thing. So, you know, big money has been made. But that kind of money has been made out of track and field as well, because it's a competitive event. So
but is it also, are you also looking at maybe the region that we're in as well? Because a lot of these top sports in the world, I watch a headline was say that table tennis was above basketball because of the location, the European, the Asian country. So is it based on the location? That's why you see now you have four of you know, Jamaican athletes is switching alliance because the money is there in Europe.
Track and field, the love for track and field is Europe, and the sport of track and field is bigger in Europe than in the Western world. In Canada and the US, you know, these countries, Western world, track and field is not a huge thing, right? And I figure because the Olympic movement started out, you know, in Europe, in the European countries, so they have grown to track and field as a part of their thing, right? Apart from in the US. The US is all about the basketball, the NFL. That's their sport. Canada is the ice hockey, even though they're not winning. Yeah, right. But track and field is pretty much a European big event, big ticket event. Even though the US had dominated track and field in a huge way, and they're the dominant country, right, in track and field. Maybe there's a reason for that, right? But even though your track and field is not celebrated, so if you're looking at region, right, you should, and even though the region in regards to Europe being the dominant thing, there is numbers there, and they come out to the event. When a track and field event is held in Europe, more people come to it than if the same event is held in the US. You know, not much people come. So, but I have a thing with the US all the time. They market, and as I'm going back to it again, they market their things in a different kind of a way. Any sport that you want to think about, right? The US have something named lumberjack, that they're just chopping wood or they're just chopping down a tree or something, and that's a big and huge sport with huge amount of sponsorship and marketing surrounding it, right? Comparing to a track and field event that an athlete spend years preparing for, right? Competing at high level competition, but yet still can't attract the amount of money. But US have a thing with market. For me, the US is one of the best marketing countries in the world, and I guess that's why, you know, all these Adidas didn't even start in the US. It's not a US product, right? It came to the United States because of the whole thing of the market and the marketing of the brands, right? Nike, you know, based on my reading of the history, Nike is a family member of Adidas that came up with that, you know, so they are the falling out, and that's the history of the thing. And these brands came out of Europe, really. Puma came out of Europe. These brands are not even American real brand, but they come to America because that's where the marketing of the thing take place. That's where the big thing in terms of promotion and marketing take place. In Europe, it's not so aggressive. The Americans are very aggressive on the marketing, and I think that's where we're falling short. And that's where, even though we have mass support of fans in Europe for track and field, we don't have great money spending on the sport because of the marketability of it. And I think that's where the whole thing is needed.
And is that what needs to be done in the Caribbean?
That's what needs to be done in the Caribbean, because and the Caribbean falls short on marketing in a big way. Because let me tell you this. When I look at Chris Gayle in terms of Chris Gayle value, and I can understand where the Indians are. I look at Chris Gayle and Chris Gayle value. Chris Gayle, they say maybe about $40 million US compared to a Kohli or compared to a Tendulkar, right? These are hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of value that they have, right? And Chris Gayle has the top valued Caribbean, because Chris Gayle, I think, is around about number 7 in terms of value and in terms of, you know, financial worth in the cricketing world. He's around about number 7. All of the Indians are there before him, including the ones that are even still playing, right? But they are in the hundreds, while he's in, you know, the 40s and the 30s in terms of his value. But yet still, you know, when you look at it, Chris Gayle should have, if he was an Indian, maybe he would have been 200 million or thereabout if he was an Indian guy, right? So when you look at it in the Caribbean, we fall short of marketing, because when cricket was a big thing, we never spend the money on it. We never get the players. We used to play the players as amateurs. This is when we had money. This is when we had the power. We never see the business side of the whole thing. That's where we are falling short in the Caribbean. We don't see the business in it. And it's the same thing with track and field. We're so late in seeing the business side of it. We remain track and field so amateur for so long that now that the athletes are saying, hey, listen, to buy just my sporting wear to compete all the time, my spikes is costing money. You know, my shorts and my
a javelin, a pole vault.
Yeah, my nutrition is a big thing. You know, like that since I'm talking to you, Rudy, and you have to be getting your athletes physiotherapists. Right? You have to get masseuse and all these things done. These are important things for performing athletes. You're performing at high level. Your muscle is not, it's not a teenager anymore. You're asking the muscle to go beyond where it is, it's possible. No, you have to get a lot of people preparing that athlete, and it costs money. right? So it means that you're in a professional, and these athletes find themselves there. And hence the reason why athletes find that they have to go to Turkey. Because it is about if you're going to, because some of these Jamaican athletes that switching up, one of the key things that a lot of people don't hear that they say for them to stay in the sport, they have to have money. They have to have support. It's not just about making money, but to stay in it, you have to be getting money, funding, some money from somewhere, right? You cannot stay in a competitive, high professional sport and just like you said to me, your athlete cannot be working a 9 to 5 job and be preparing for world championship. There's no way.
It's no way.
Because sometimes athletes have to be training twice a day.
Yeah.
Right? And training twice a day, that is track days. Just imagine they have to get up and get the gym work in. They have to get up and ensure good nutrition. So, maybe they have to go and see a psychologist sometime because a lot of things is pretty mental. And you hear a lot of, because I listened to the Jamaican track star Shikari recently, since this week, in regards to an interview that she was on, and she was saying that, hey, listen, people don't understand that we have to get psychological sessions in a lot of times, because it is you're asking your body to do things that it is really not accustomed to do. So all of that is a mental. You have to be mentally. When you listen to these athletes, a lot of time when they say, hey, listen, when we come to that line of whatever event it is, it's all about a mental preparation as well. If you're not mentally prepared, it doesn't matter how fast you think you can run, you might never ever win that race. So it's a lot of things. The marketing of the whole thing needs to be changed for Caribbean, Caribbean sports overall.
So even on that with track and field, as the love for it, just as how college in the Caribbean, in the US now having this new thing where the athletes can be paid and so forth. Is it somewhat to see some of these high school kids in the Caribbean start getting some sort of support to keep them going in the sport?
Yeah, and as John Tomlin said, it is highly mental than physical, and I support that, John. It is very much so. But to get back to your point, Rudy, yes, one of the things that I've advocated for, and I'd always advocate for, to say in Jamaica, Boys and Girls Championship is a big event. It attracts a lot of sponsorship every year, a whole lot. It is very competitive in terms of corporate entities trying to outdo themselves. Who is going to put forward the best bid, or the best creative abilities and money in regards to Boys and Girls Championship. So, what people is seeing is an event that is attracting corporate entities, who is literally fighting every single year to get in there and to be a part of it. Even if they want to sponsor one event, it's very competitive just to sponsor one event at Champs, just to get your banner display somewhere. It is very competitive. I'm telling you, and this has been for years, literally very, very competitive. I can remember one year where two major telecoms, Digicel and Flow. And Digicel was never the sponsor, but they wanted to get a part of it, so much so that they had one of the athletes, when he won his race, he had on a Digicel shirt that he displayed at the end of the race, just to talk about how aggressive the marketing is. That's one of the things that they do. It caused a big uproar and all kind of things and all kind of changes to rules and regulation. But that's how competitive it is for Boys and Girls Champs, right? So the whole thing is that school sports, and especially in Jamaica where Boys and Girls Champs is concerned, the money is not being filtered down to the schools. It's of recent times that I hear that, oh yes, we give a little money to schools, but it's not filtered down to schools. And when it is even filtered down to schools, it is not getting to the individual athletes at all. And I'm not supporting that athletes at a young age must get cash money in them hand, because I understand the dynamics and the dangers of that. What I'm supporting is that athletes from these schools participate in an event, right? Who is the product? These are the athletes that people are paying this money to. These are the athletes that the sponsors are running over themselves to sponsor this event to come and see, right? No, if I am on show and I am a product, whether I'm a 1-year-old or I'm 2-year-old, it doesn't matter. I am the product. And if people paying to come and see me, I want to ensure that I'm a part of whatever that earning is, right? So I am saying athletes in school, they need spikes, they need uniform, they need maintenance throughout the years. A lot of these athletes, Rudy, I can tell you, because I've been through the high school track and field system. You need food every day. It's not every day your mother, a lot of these athletes get lunch money from the parents. It's not every day a lot of these athletes, the same athletes that you're seeing, which might include a Usain Bolt in his development, have dinner when they go home after hard days of school and a hard days of training after school, right? A lot of them might have to go home and work. A lot of athletes that you see, they might have to be, go tying out the goat or the cow when you see them come from school and come from training too, because that's still go on. But nobody cares about his care during school. And I'm saying, if you're going to have an event where you're going to showcase in a talent, and that talent is going to bring money to your association, filter that down to him, maybe not in cash, but in resources that is going to take care of them, right? Let them can have good gyms, let them can have good nutrition, let them can have good hygiene, let them can have all of these things that they need. Because like a lot of the girls in school, hygiene is a big part. And even, I hear Shakiri talk about it this week, as I said, right? She was talking about our own hygiene and how women, their bodies go through certain things at some time of the month. No, they have to be preparing themselves mentally, physically, and all of that. When their body is going through something that time, you can just imagine. Sometimes these ladies line up at the line. You don't know what's happening with them. Sometimes we see them lose and you don't know what they're going through. They're not talking about it, but they're going through it, right? But if you don't filter the money through from the organization down to them, and there's the same thing happening with international track and field as well, right? The same thing happening with international track and field as well. The money is not filtered from the organization down to the athletes, literally. When the Olympics is going to say, boy, we're not paying money to athletes, that was such a no for so many years. And for 2024, they say, oh, we're going to give a little bit. That is so, you know how much money they make from when Olympics started? So, the coppers must have been full and running over to it. But they never give anything.
Certainly. Let me say this too. You mentioned about the organization in Jamaica. We know we had them on. Those who take care of. I can't remember the name off my head. Michael would know the name of the sports program in high school sports organization in Jamaica, and ESAP. But ESAP is also in charge of track and field. Is the one that bringing the money for every single sport in Jamaica. So I get what you're saying. But how do you use that now? Since they have to take care of the netball, the soccer, and all the other sports, So whatever you know about that.
Rudy, let me tell you this much: ISA don't filter that money. We in Jamaica, journalists in Jamaica never buy that conversation at all, because every single sport in high school sports in Jamaica get a level of sponsorship. They might not get the full amount that they really need to run it, but they get a level of sponsorship. The amount of money that they make from boys and girls championships, I'm telling you, is overwhelming. There is one point, there are a couple of years that we have always asked ISA, let us see what your financials are, because people are saying that why schools don't have what they're supposed to have, but yet still we have a big world event that is attracting world sponsorship, right? Attracting local sponsorship, but yet still, the cricket and the netball in the country was never getting any money at all, because they never used to give much to it, even though they keep claiming that they do, right? The track and field and the athletes never used to get anything. They never ever want to show that. I don't even know if to date that they have ever published publicly what their financials are, right? So we don't buy that because we don't see. And I know that it's pretty cash rich right now as it is. They're pretty cash rich right now as it is. The only sporting organization in Jamaica that really, can't say they ever see a deficit in their accounts. Cannot. When Jamaica Football Association can say, boy, we see a deficit. When even the J3s, which is the big overarching body of track and field in Jamaica, can say they see a deficit, ISSA is one of those organizations that never see no deficit at all. It doesn't matter what they want to say. There is never be a negative in their accounts because Boys and Girls Champs has always been a profitable event from day one. Big thing. And this is not Rudy. This is when they used to have boys champs separate from girls champs. It wasn't one championships in the recent years that it became one championship. So you used to have boys champs, you used to have girls champs. They used to always have big sponsorship. Always. Right? So it has never been filtered. So the money that they have, if they you see, the thing that I have with sporting organization, even around the world, and FIFA, for the amount of corruption that they caught them with, it says to me all the time that there is money, right? Because you remember the big off with FIFA scandal that came out with all this money that all these, including our boy in Trinidad, with all these executive, sci-fi have so much millions. It's not like a couple thousands of dollars. Sci-fi have millions of dollars, right? Living a lavish life, right? Out of administration, This is out of administration funding. This is out of the money that comes into the organization. And they're living very lavish, right? Just look at what FIFA scandal was and just imagine other organizations and the kind of money that they have and how the executive are been treated. In Jamaica, like the J3s, every year people complain about the executives always get to fly first class and they always get this kind of a treatment and all that, but yet still an athlete is traveling to the same Olympic Games or the same World Championship and is in the basic economy class in the plane going while the president who not competing, who don't need a comfortable chair, is in first class, traveling, right? At whose expense? At whose expense? Because taxpayers and sponsors are the ones who paying this money. So literally, it's Jamaican people paying for these athletes to go to this event and be comfortable, not executive, because they're not competing. They're not the product on show. My problem that I have with them is that the executive always are the ones who are being treated nice and getting all other things, but the product never get anything.
Certainly. As we wrap up, Michael, I don't know if you have a question before Richard give his last.
I'm enjoying Richard, man. I'm enjoying Richard. But Richard, I saw there were two comments there. One from John was saying that more mental and physical. There are levels to this, and wellness is an incorporative piece in the physical training. That's for something you meant earlier. And then you're saying, Coach Lati, you are 100% on point. No matter where we are in the Caribbean or in the US, you have to have investment in nutrition, wellness, physical training, the full spectrum to build a person. And somehow, I saw you made the reference earlier in the program where you say an athlete in terms of track and field can go into a store and sometimes people don't know who is that. Yeah. Compare that to probably in Canada. Well, no, probably a hockey player, or in the US, a basketballer or NFL player. And remember, that track and field athlete might be a world record holder.
Yeah.
Might be 100-meter champion, right? So globally, on the global stage, right? And you're talking about an NBA player, they're just playing NBA basketball. And they have more visibility, more notoriety, all of that than probably a world record holder, a 100-meter champion, or a high jumper, and things like that. So it has to do a lot, as you say, sometimes with the marketing, and you know how the association itself market. And sometimes I see some of the athletes take it upon themselves to do their own marketing. And for some, I think it's selling for some, because when you know that, Rudy, when a lot of them will do and say things probably on TikTok, and for some reason they will get the level of attention. I don't know if Sha'Carri Richardson was one who did things and say things that gave her that sort of attention, you'll say. And I will see probably the same. Noah Lyles is trying something that they don't know if it can fit into the Usain Bolt. But do you think that there's any athlete now that can replicate the Usain Bolt in terms of who brought, not in terms of performance, but in terms of who brought some level of attention, global attention, I should say, to the sports of track and field?
None. Zero. Listen, when you say about one, and every time you win let's even go back before me even start the race. When you say about starting a race, there's a lot of cameras, there's a lot of eyes just on him starting the race, because he's doing something out there, right? Is it him booming face with the youngster who has his basket with his clothes? Is it him having a conversation? Is it him doing something, him doing that to the world or something? But I don't know if you saying that he does those things just out of his own mental relaxation or whatever, and it becomes something, right? When he won and he did it to the world thing, so there wasn't anything planned. He just do it out of celebration, and it just happened to be something. So a lot of his theatrics, right, before and after the race, made him into a certain kind of a personality, into a certain kind of a brand, outside of winning a world record, outside of winning a gold medal and running a world record. That no athlete today, no lies trying a couple of little things like running out on the track and doing something, but that's not, it doesn't come across as a natural thing. Usain Bolt was just doing these things out of just natural things, and people love that. People gravitate towards that, right? Because he was not the only big star at that time, but he made himself into the star, because that time you had Ewan Blake and you had Tyson Gaze and you have Asafa Paul. All of these athletes was doing very well, right? Was doing very, very, very well, running very, very fast, right? But they would never ever mirror the kind of brand that Usain Bolt created. Usain Bolt anywhere today is still the top. Is still the top brand in track and field in the world today, even not competing after so many years. Still the top brand. If you ask for any athlete or any corporate entity is wanting an athlete to come somewhere to appear, Usain Bolt's name is going to be on top of the list as a non-competitor. Not Noel, right? Not Sha'Carri. And her brand is growing, but not even her. They're not nowhere near there at all. Right? Usain Bolt is ambassador for life for Puma. There's only few sportsmen in the world that have that with any brand, Michael Jordan is one such brand, is one such person. Not very few have that kind of a thing. A brand want to keep you for life because of who you are. When Usain Bolt competed, and every single Puma product in the world, when you go to a store, sell off. What does that says? Not even Michael Jordan was that. When the man finished and break the world record, every single Puma thing, the Puma company said, hey, it's your birthday, we'll give you a BMW, customize it to your thing, we'll fly to home to Jamaica for you. Whatever you want to do, anything at all. The checkbook was open. I've not seen a sportsman in the world who affected sports like that. And that's why I tell Rudy the other day when I'm talking about top 5 sports people, Usain Bolt must be the top of everybody, because he has done things in a sport that is even no marketing taking place, nothing at all going on. He had done it to the sports that is not on top of the sporting arena. And that's the biggest thing.
But Richard, do you think that in the era of Bolt and Blake and all the others, okay?
Asafa,
yeah, Asafa and even the female, that Jamaica, whether it's track and field, whether it's Olympics, whether it's government, took advantage of that brand?
Today, no. They just only this year made Usain Bolt ambassador for tourism. Tourism is Jamaica number one performing. Yeah. And it's just now they're making Usain Bolt ambassador. Just now for tourism. Right? Just imagine that. This is when him stop running. This is when all of the hype is literally cooling down around him now. This is when they are going to be taking interest in terms of making him ambassador. It's a good gesture. That's fine. But I'm saying, while Jamaica was hot, we never made any money at all from it. We never made any money from it at all. We were on top of the world. Usain Bolt was the biggest name in sports, not track and field, in sports around the world. The biggest name. You can imagine the world stopped when Usain was competing anywhere at all. Stop, literally stop. And everybody have to glue to the TV. They have to come out to the stadium. Right? When you and Blake won the world championship, when Usain Bolt pick started, I can tell you this. This had never happened to no sporting personality ever. When 15,000 people paid the premium money to come into the stadium, when Usain Bolt pick started and was going through the tunnel to go through outside to go to leave the stadium, 15,000 people literally got up, walk outside. Hence the reason why right now, any premier event that is going to be held at any Olympics or World Championship or a track and field meet for that matter is going to always remain last. Because Usain Bolt, they had to know, let his event remain for the last event on the program.
Yeah.
Last, them have to make him run last. If you notice, for the last couple of Olympics or World Championships that he ran in, his event was the last event on the program. Because of that fact, because people getting up and leaving when he is finished. They don't care that they just pay the money. They didn't care, and it's expensive to go to these track and field meet. They didn't care that they pay the money. They left and not complaining. So you can just imagine. You know when you go to a sporting event and your team don't perform, you're vexed and it's bare cussing and quarreling going on through the gate and going. But nobody had that kind of a thing. But Jamaica never see the thing up until this day. We're still not seeing it. We're not realizing. I was just telling Rudy, the marketing of our sports in the Caribbean, we're not taking advantage. I don't know if Grenada is even taking advantage of Karani James and the label that he's walking around with. It's a huge label that he has.
Well, at least he's a sporting ambassador even while he's competing. That's the good thing about it. That's the advantage.
No, but they need to use the brand and make money. They need to make the country and put the country forward. Making them an ambassador and just leaving it there as a label is nothing. You need to have him out there in the world. You need to, when he's representing Grenada, you need to be out there with him as a country. You need to be doing activities with him, and that's where the US, that's where I said the US, the United States, they're very great at these things. If Usain Bolt was a US athlete, I'm telling you, track and field in the US would have been rivaling any NBA, any NFL, any soft, any baseball right now. If Usain Bolt was a track athlete in the US, I can tell you that much. The amount of money that they would have been making. And of course,
so that's the advice. So is that the advice now you give to St. Lucia with Julian Alfred?
Of course, because they still start a low key on the thing. Put money behind the young lady. Put some money behind the young lady as a country. You will get it back. Because you know what? When she compete as St. Lucia. Not even herself, with her name, she competing as St. Lucia. If you don't make that into a brand, right? Make St. Lucia into a brand. When she's running, St. Lucia, the name St. Lucia represents something on her, right? But we don't seem to understand these things. We don't make events out of these things. We just, Julian Alfred from St. Lucia. The announcer just do that and that's done. If it's an American marketing company, have her. World beater, when you come to that event, or when TV is going to broadcast that she's going to be competing, it's going to be maybe a whole month of she all over national US TV everywhere. She's been dragged everywhere for interview everywhere before she compete. All kind of things they do, right? But in the Caribbean, we're just we accept that. Okay, so we just make her an ambassador, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you said that because two things happened in the Caribbean. But I recall, I don't know if anything happened in via to CNN, was when Kirani won the gold medal. CNN was talking about it.
Yes.
You know,
That's what Americans are.
and the same thing with Usain Bolt. CNN was talking about it. Otherwise, you don't really see other athletes with CNN really talk about them like that.
No, and I tell you this in a Rudy. All those interviews only happened because they, as an American media company, wanted to carry the news. They wanted to piggyback on that big thing that is happening. When a CNN is going to come for her, they call her. They will literally go. Their producers are calling her, finding her wherever they might never have even known about her or talked to her ever. But the fact that she did what she did, they said this is a world news for us to carry. This is the most popular thing. They want to be a part of it, but St. Lucia might not even see to say, hey, make we call CNN and tell CNN, say, hey, we have a big news for you. Do this, do that. You know, that kind of a thing. That's how we need to get aggressive in terms of our marketing. We can't sit down and wait till it happens. We need to make it happen.
Last year we had your country folk, you know, Carol Beckford, right?
Yeah.
And she spoke about well, you know, Carol involved in sport marketing, you know,
journalism, the whole thing.
Yeah, and she had called for CARICOM and Caribbean governments to give up 1% of their budget towards a sport development fund, right? Where she said additional sources could come from agencies that already work in the region. But she was looking at this sports development fund that can, you know, look at technical infrastructure, marketing and business development, and research and development, and, you know, things like that. Do you think, Richard, that the governments in the Caribbean gave serious attention to the development of sports, knowing fully well, and even treating sport as an economic pillar, an industry, knowing how much sports has done to the region? When you look at cricket, when you look at track and field of recent, do you think they give that level of attention, or should they give more attention to sports?
No, they haven't given any attention to sports at all. Sports is just like recreation for us in the Caribbean to date. To governments, sports is like a recreation to their budget. It's just like it's like you send a child to school and then just have physical education class, but, you know, you really don't spend any money on it, just like how you'd spend money for is theatrical or is education, in terms of you'd spend the money for him to go do the maths exam, the English exam, all of that. But in terms of sports, you will not put that kind of effort into it from a government perspective. If parents, let me tell you, if parents don't do what they do for their children in the Caribbean in terms of spending that money, right, on them for sports or supporting them in sports, we wouldn't have Usain Bolts and these athletes around the world today. These parents, they put their money, right? So in terms of supporting what Carol says is a fact. We need to do these things as a CARICOM countries, right? So, and to go back to CARICOM and sports, they had West Indies cricket. CARICOM was the one that had West Indies cricket, and this is where West Indies cricket is today, just to show you the amount of money, because the countries weren't putting in the money into CARICOM to put into the cricket. They're still not doing that, right? They're not wanting to give up any money towards sports because they don't regard it as something important in terms of development of the people. Government in the CARICOM region, we don't see the development of people as important. We don't see development of people as important, right? Because if you can develop the tourism industry, you can put money towards that. You can develop bauxite, or you can develop food, or you can develop whatever industry it is, and you put money towards that. They create budget towards this. If you look at every single Caribbean country's sporting budget, it must be one of the lowest thing on the totem pole. because they don't think of people development as important. We have to develop our own self. If you want an education right now, you have to pay so much money to go to school because government don't think that giving you an education is an important thing. They all talk it, but they never ever do it. They don't do it. Right? It's the same thing with sports. They don't want to put the money, but yet still, sports brings so much money into these countries every single year. When these athletes go to the Olympics, when these West Indies cricketers perform, right? The amount of attention and the name. Right now, Jamaica name is so big in the world of sport. Once you see a Jamaica standing up anywhere in the world, just like when we got to bobsled, we were the biggest thing in bobsled that time, right? In the Winter Olympics, it was like, this is a Jamaican Winter Olympics. Jamaica not winning anything. We just enter the thing for the first time to get an experience. But the US create movies off it. Them do all kind of things. Right now, Cool Runnings is a brand.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Government never put anything. These guys had to prepare themselves on their own. They had to go out and borrow some sled from the US and all these kind of things just to show you, how Caribbean leaders and government, they don't think that sports is an income generating industry. They don't even think of it as an industry. It's an income generating industry. It brings bigger income than a lot of the industries that they have into their countries. Because when an athlete go out there and do something, it's not just getting Grenada's demographics attention, it getting the entire world's attention. Right? You can imagine Otto Bowling performing at the Olympics and the World Championships and the amount of attention Trinidad gets from that. But the government don't seem to understand the level of attention that he got. He got 10 million viewers, 10 million people seeing Trinidad and talking about Trinidad. How do you capitalize on it? How do you use it after that? They don't. They should give money towards it. And I support Carl in terms of putting together, a group of CARICOM, and CARICOM give that 1% to the thing, the amount of money that that each country would tend to make from that. You can just imagine right now the West Indies cricket even performing at 50% better than they are doing today. You know what that would do for our cricket, what that would do for our people, what that would do for each Caribbean country. Every single country in the world wants to tour Caribbean islands, Every single cricketing nation in the world is happy to come and tour the Caribbean island, the West Indies. Every single country.
And when they do come, they come with an entourage because the cricketers come with family members and and all these other things. They come with the supporters.
Michael, these people take a vacation.
It's only
people take vacation to come. This is not just coming.
It's only the West Indies that don't travel with a big group of
entourage.
Yeah. They come.
The people take a vacation and come. They save the money. They know there's going to be right now. The Australians are here, and I can tell you the amount of Australians that is here is crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They come with the entire club, the cricket club that they have in Australia. And each club come in.
And they started in Barbados. They went to Grenada. They're now in Jamaica.
Yeah. And they're spending money.
And
they're spending money. They're not afraid to spend. I can tell you, they're spending money because in Jamaica they're drinking all of the things that they can drink. They're eating. It is crazy.
So true.
And they're in hotels. They have taxis. They, and all. They're going on tours. They're going on all these other things, right?
I'm telling you. Hey.
And could you imagine from the end of the test, which ended in 2 or 3 days? To which was last week, which was last Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
And Sunday or Monday. And you have the T20 that starts tomorrow, Sunday.
Yeah.
So all these days now, they are staying in hotel, they pay for hotel, they're going on tours, they have time to go on tours, they do this, they do that, they go into the bars, they go, all over. That's a lot of money being spent.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
And they're not afraid to spend the money because, as I said, for them, right? And when Australia coming out, just remember, the English guys are here now.
Yeah.
Right?
You have the
Indian guys are here, They come to, because they want to come and watch the tour.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not that it's just Australian coming.
Yeah.
All of these nations, they come.
Yeah.
Right? And spend huge money.
I know, Richard, Richard, I know Rudan probably might be itching to ask you that before we wrap up, but we're looking at some predictions for World Championships. Particularly, I know when it comes to track and field, there always used to be the rivalry between Jamaica and the United States, particularly in the sprints and things like that. So, somehow there's some concerns regarding that, and even with the relays. I want you to shed some light on that. Let us discuss that, particularly because since Jamaica used to be the what we say
the spotlight,
particularly for the Caribbean, and it carries the Caribbean on its shoulder, right? If Jamaica does well, it's like the Caribbean did well,
Yeah, first.
But of recent, we have seen, some even relay team, for example. Normally, a world championship, you have to look for the United States, Jamaica, others, whether it's 4x1, 4x4, men and women, all these sort of things. But somehow things not looking good. And then even with it seems as if the changing of the guards for the female now in terms of the sprints and things like that. Let's talk about Jamaica's chances for the World Championships.
So Jamaican chances for the World Championships. This morning, of course, the men qualify for the 4x100 meters this morning in London.
But why it had to go down to the wire?
Well, just remember that it had to go down to the wire because Jamaica dropped the button. I don't remember what meet they competed in with Ewan and Ford when they dropped the button there, right? And they wasn't able to complete the event because, the relays, they don't run too often. And one of the problem with the men relays and the female too is that the team don't get together as often as possible because remember now, as professional athletes, and in Jamaica, you have different clubs now, and they start of protecting their interests individually. So even if the J3s say, hey, listen, let's go to Penn Relays and run a relay leg for Jamaica so we can get the qualifying time, because now you have to qualify to go to these meets, right? You have to have the qualifying time. You find that never normally happen as frequent as it's supposed to happen because every single club is protecting their own interest in their athletes because that's where they make their money from, right? Their athletes performing individually is how they make their money, not a relay. Because when you participate on a relay, you don't get anything as a club, right? And as an individual, you don't really. So it happened very infrequently. So what had happened even this weekend now is that they decided that, hey, we're down to the wire, so let's put together some of the better four people that we have to ensure that we get the qualifying mark so that we can go and represent Jamaica. So they did that this weekend and qualify, right? Apart from that, they always just pick up any four that's available and they go and try with it. And it's the same thing for the women, right? So it's getting those four high-performance athletes together all the time to try and qualify. So that's why it looks like that. But it's not that. It is not there. The skills and the talents is there, right? But it's just to put them together as a team. Individually now, there's a lot of outstanding athletes that is there that is going to be very competitive. Kishane Thompson is going to be doing very well, right? I think he's getting into more maturity into the event as a newcomer to the whole international stage. He's getting there, right? So this is going to be his next biggest occasion, right? He has competed a couple of Diamond Leagues recently, and he had done well. He's been running some really good time, and I think the Blakes and all of the rest of them, they're doing pretty well. So there's going to be a competitive 100 meters on both the male side and the female side where the Caribbean is concerned for sure. Right, the jumpers are doing well as well. I mean, even though we had a jumper who had switched and gone over to Turkey, we still have great jumpers that is performing very, very well right now. The throwers are pretty much the same, not the best of the thing because the two best had left us and gone, but there are still some great ones because these are events that we still are high level performance in, and in the throws, especially on the men's side, we have a lot that is in the line that represented Jamaica. So Jamaica is going to be represented very well. It doesn't, you might see even on the female side in terms of track, it looks like whether Shelly is going to be ready or whether Sharika is going to be ready, they're going to be ready when it comes on to the meet. Because don't remember now, this meet has been held very late in the year. And a lot of the things strategically, especially from a Stephen Francis point of view, he tends to rise at that occasion right on time for the event. So it is going to be these events normally be in the summertime in the August season. Now it's going to be down in September a little bit, right? So the athletes have to kind of gear themselves for their championships first, then break and then gear themselves now for the World Championship. So what you're going to be seeing, and from a lot of athletes around the world as well, and the Americans are pretty much doing the same model as well. If you look, their championships is going to be late as well. So they're kind of moving their things along the way. That's why you're not seeing a lot of great times and that kind of thing. But coming closer down to the season, to the event, is when you're going to be seeing a whole lot of people that say, hey, but what happened to this person? What happened to that person? They're there. The Claytons certainly are taking over the charge in terms of the sprints for the women's side. I like what they look like. They keep running, low 10 seconds and that kind of a thing. I like that kind of a thing that they're doing, and they're looking pretty ominous right now. I mean, where the Americans are, I'm not so sure. But, I mean, the Jamaican side of things is looking pretty good. They look like they could, walk away the 4x100 meter relay today based on everybody looking good and everybody all right. They look like the more better team than the American. Only person on the American side that is really looking good is Jefferson, right, Rudy? She's looking pretty good and unbeatable for the season so far. But it's going to be very competitive because the Americans are not as too dominantly looking. If you look at individuals compared to the Jamaicans, they're not as dominant as the perception is out there, right? They pretty much are on the same level.
But a question though, do you think, well, a few years ago, probably 5 or so years ago, it may have been a dumb question in terms of, well, no, I wouldn't say a dumb, because both the male and the female used to be as competitive, especially with Bolt and Shelly and them in it. But as it is now, would you say the women's sprint seems to be the one that might be the marquee event and probably the most competitive, even more than the men's?
I tell you this much.
When you look at Alfred, you look at Jefferson, you look at those from Jamaica.
Jamaica, Shelly, Tina.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Would you say that the women could be the marquee event? Maybe one of the two, eh?
Not necessarily, because when you have Tobago and you have Noel Isles and you have Kishian Thompson who's going to be at that line, right? Nobody knows which one of those three is going to take the event, right? Nobody, and we don't know what the Europeans are doing also, because you hardly see a lot of them, right? Because Jacobs is still there from Italy. I mean, you hardly see those. But, when you have Tobago doing what he's doing, Noah coming back and looking as good as he is right now, and then Kishian Thompson is running very great. Everybody's really predicting that Kishian can win. People said Noah looking good, right? Tobago looking pretty good right now. You understand? Even though Noah beat him in the last week, right? But it still doesn't say anything because they are preparing and they are looking good when championships comes around. So it's pretty competitive on the women's side, right? Jefferson and the Sharika and Shelly is there to prove something. I can tell you this much. It's our last thing, our last big thing on the calendar for her is our retirement walkaway event, right? She wants to do something spectacular. And I can tell you this, and that's what I'm saying. What you have seen even at our national trials is not a Shelly that is trying to win the trials, but it's a Shelly that is trying to prepare ourselves strategically right down until that final day, which is something that they do, right? So they get themselves ready right until this. Every day that goes by is a day that they might be getting a little faster and a little faster and a little faster until that day when everything, and she has nothing to lose. So once she comes to that line for that finals, it's going to be something. You're going to have to beat her. You're going to have to catch her. You're going to have to try everything out of the bag to do something, right? Sharika never run at the Olympics last year. So she right now sort of a burning desire in her heart that she had let down her fans last year at the Olympics. So she think that she owes the fans right now a debt of gratitude that she needs to pay. Right? So she's preparing herself. So what you're going to be seeing on both the men's side and the women's side is a lot of fire. But I go with your point that the women, there's more fire in their event than the men. Much more fire, because there's Jefferson on there to think that, hey, listen, it's her time now. The American Jefferson think that is her time. Shakira think that, hey, listen, I just coming back and I'm going to show you guys that, listen, I can rise again like a phoenix out of this thing. Right? And she's preparing herself and she's talking the talk every day on social media. She's talking up this talk. Right? That, hey, I'm not done yet. She keeps saying that. So, hey, the thing is going to be there, right?
And then
so
we have
it's
Julian,
a big thing.
And we have Julian from St. Lucia who is,
oh my gosh. Julian is a powerhouse out there that everybody trying to beat right now. You understand? So it is the females is going to bring the fire to the. You can't miss that event. I tell everybody in the world, if you miss the women's 100-meter finals, you're missing a Usain Bolt occasion, right? That's what is going to be missing.
But here's the thing on my point of view with that people look at those athletes now, like you said, it's in September, and a lot of them is running top notch now. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be the same then? And that's where I'm trying to figure out. Look at Julian. Are you running too much? You don't see the Jamaicans right now, but they're there. They may not see them much in competition, but they're there. Jackson only did the relay today, so they're there. So the question is, would that be a disadvantage for those who are competing now because it's so late in September? Is that a disadvantage now for the Jamaicans? Because I still think many people think that to knock the Jamaicans to the side and say they'll be in the finals, but they're not a contender. I think they are a contender. I think those three Jamaican athletes are contender, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a Jamaican sweep podium.
Yeah, tell you this much. From a Stephen Francis side, in terms of the Clayton and Sharika, never you write off that coach. I can tell you that much. Stephen Francis, when his athletes come to the line, don't write them off.
I think strategically, he's probably one of the best.
Yeah. He's one of that kind of a thing. Don't write them off, right? Secondly, Rudy, don't think they're competing too much, because remember now that even if the World Championship would be in August, they would still have many Diamond League events that they would be competing on. Because remember, Elaine Thompson, she ran her fastest race after the Olympics when she came sneak in and beat them, right? She ran her fastest 10:54. She ran her fastest in that race. No, so it's not that they're competing too much, but they have to stay a level of competition. If they were competing, where I would be worried if they were competing week after week after week after week, then I'll be worried. But the fact that they are picking events to stay sharp throughout the season, leading up onto the race, and that's what I said to you. Don't watch what you're seeing going on now, because people is just going through a lot of different preparation things. People trying out their starts, people trying out the top end speed, people trying out the mid range in terms of their when they come from the start and get into their running. People trying out many things. People trying out mentally how they feel among international people at this point in time in their career. So people trying many things. People trying to see whether or not the injury is going to come back.
Yeah,
so like a Shelly and a Sharika, they're trying to see, and a Shakiri, they're trying to see whether or not the injury is going to come back. So many things is trying out right now. So even though the Diamond Leagues are, but I don't think that they're running too much, right? And of course, it is going to be in September. It is going to be a big thing. I think every single the only person I sort of have a little bit of fear for is Jefferson from the US, because I think that she's competing too much at a high level.
At a high level, that's it. Yeah.
I think she's the one that I'm a little bit worried about. But for the rest of them, I think they're really strategic in terms of it's going to be an humdinger. It's going
because the good thing about Alpha, just before I go, she don't only do the 100, she do the 200. So which is that everything is not in that power in the 100, because 200 is a different race as well. So certainly that, man. But Richard, thank you very much, man. You listen, man.
Appreciate it, man.
You come out here. You put a smile on Bascom's face.
But
He
not only
certainly
that,
will have you back again. You know?
yeah, Richard will have to come back again, and
Yeah.
Richard will be our special analyst. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll have to be
No
our special analyst because you'll have to come back probably before and just after the World Championships. You'll have to give us some
And certainly, Bascom, Richard also do a sports as well, and he put it out there. Definitely, we have to bring you on as well, Bascom, one day, and then and then you to give your point of view on just off YouTube, and just to give your point of view on certain things. Like this week we talk about the top 5 favorite athletes. And that was good. That was a good one. So certainly, so we will continue.
You say boy
that
to the world.
yeah.
I want to tell you thank you, though, but I want to tell your listeners and your viewers to appreciate them taking the time to stop in and listen to us. Great program that you're having, great show that you're having. I've listened to quite a bit of it, and I'm going to continue to join in, and great country, man. Hey, listen, tell your people just to keep supporting their sporting icons, continue to supporting their sporting people. Put all your money, go to the stadium, spend your money, man, and go watch the people perform, man, because they need it. Go out and support them always.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Richie.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Bascom.
All right, then. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Yeah, folks. So that's we had Richard McClarty in Jamaica, and then we had our co-host as usual, Rudian Sylvan. And
sorry, Michael. Let me add on to that. Richard is in Toronto. He's not in Jamaica.
Richard is in Toronto. He's Jamaican.
He lives in Toronto now. Yeah, he's Jamaican. He lives in Toronto now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rick. Right. Thank you for that. But somehow he probably will visit Jamaica sometime. That's correct. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. We had an extended program because we wanted to put in so much in. We had Hamlet Mark. We had Ryan O'Brien from St. Lucia. We had Hamlet, who was in Grenada. We had Glennis Roberts. So we were talking netball. We were talking cricket. We were talking broadcasting, sports and cricket commentary, cricket itself. And now we had Richard, who was talking not just track and field, but sports in general. Thank you very much. And as usual, John, thank you for your comments. That John Tomlinson. Looking forward to seeing you in Grenada Garden. Thank you very, very much again. So to Edwin Sam, New Jersey. Thank you for being part of our program. Folks, that's all for our program this week. And the invitation is yours to join us next week for another program. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend.